think we've got one apology, and that's Richard Brodie, and I don't think the independent have sent a substitute today. Have we got any declarations of interest? No. Item 3 is external representation on committees. Anything to add to the report? I think if we go through them piece by piece, first one is the Parent Council representatives. Now, I think that came from the Education Committee. I don't know what members' views on this one is. That we proceed. Colin?
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The only issue is when we proceed, I suppose. We don't really know what we're nominating them to in a few months' time. We don't know what the format. I'm assuming we'll have an education committee. Whether we'll have a big super duper children's services committee or whatever, I don't know. But so whether or not it's worth actually tying the two together so that when we appoint people, it's to what the new committee structure is, as opposed to the existing committee structure, might make sense in terms of timing.
I wonder if that, just on the back of what Colin's saying there, will that make more sense when we get to the next kind of further on in the reports actually? Certainly, my group's got a view in regards to that. I think it's certainly alluded to within the report 2017, new council coming forward, December 60, maybe 17, something about there. I think it's. I mean, our view is that we're not at that report yet, but we should go through a transitional stage. When we get to May 2017, everything should be fully implemented. I think that's alluded to. We're not adverse to that at all. So I'm not preempting the decision that we'll make at that point in time, but I think I'm quite happy to, quite content that it's aligned to that process even. But if we make it beforehand, it doesn't really matter. It will come forward.
Here, if we follow it through, it should only be that they're here for educational issues, not for social work issues if they're service subcommittee. So maybe that should be the wording. If you want to start earlier, that they are on the appropriate committee where educational issues will be discussed.
Well, I think that's the point Colin's making, that, okay, we've got an education committee at the moment, teacher, church reps, and dealing purely with nursery, secondary, basically education. But under the new structure, the Director of Education will have responsibility for social work, leisure and sport, CLD. And again, you've got to look at what kind of structure. You have that one committee sitting there the entire day, and then get to the stage where you say parents, teachers, and church reps that you're going to have to leave now. We're on to a different agenda item. So, consensus I'm getting is you want to agree to have these appointments, but it'll take place as and when we've looked at the committee structure we're going to have for the education service. Is that what I'm picking up? Ian?
Can I just so I'm clear in regards to the members on the education committee as it stands, that's embedded within legislation. So how does that tie in what's potentially being proposed? I think is it part of legislation? We have to have church representatives, so on and so forth. So therefore, there is an entitlement there already out with our gift of changing that. So I would imagine if we're going to change it, we'll have to work around about that legislation. So I would have thought the committee structure will have to be similar.
What the legislation used to state, I don't know, about 1988, I think it was, that churches had to be represented, three representatives. Teachers had the right to be there. The government changed the rules, fell the teachers, and that was one of the punitive actions against teachers, was to remove their right to serve in education committees. Former regional council, along with quite a number of other education authorities in Scotland, said, fine, there's no statutory right, but we'll continue giving you your right to be there that you've had since the 1920s. So it wouldn't matter what we did. If we didn't appoint parents, we could decide to take teachers off. As the law stands, there's still a statutory right to appoint church representatives under whatever committee structure we have, but they're only there for the purposes of education. So depending on what committee structure we set up. Alistair?
Thanks, Chair. I basically agree with that. I think it's important, sir, that this council, every opportunity to reaffirm their commitment, as it were, to enhancing community involvement in the decision-making process. And I don't know how long it'll take to move to the brave new world of revised committee systems and structures. But my own personal view is that, this is the right decision to take at this moment in time. I think we should agree it today, recommend it to the council. Presumably there will be a period of time, taken before the new structures, committee structures are agreed and are in place. And I would like to think that, at that time, with the appropriate can-do attitude on the part of the authority, we'll work our way around, as it were, issues of the type which have been raised this morning. But I think, to me, it sends out an important message to the community that we are going to allow these two representatives to participate in the work of this committee, and that we recommend accordingly to the council, and we proceed down that particular route. Okay, as I've said, we probably will have to revise certain aspects of the appointment at the appropriate time, but well, let's do that, and let's adopt the can-do attitude in the doing. That's where I'm coming from.
So I think what we're saying is that we'll recommend to full council that the appointment be made, and it'll take effect at the time when we've decided what the committee structure is going to be for the furtherance of the education service.
Okay, fine. The appointment will be made, but is there any reason why the people can't be appointed and it can't be they can't function and work within the parameters of the education committee chair as currently existing, in the knowledge, of course, that that structure will inevitably be altered going forward, but we'll review their input and their involvement at that time. That's basically where I'm coming from. I prefer not to divide, and this is all possible, but that's my view.
Yeah, we used to have the old, kind of what we called at the time, it was education, social work, everything seemed to be in there. And at that time we had the teachers and the church representatives, and at the appropriate time they left the room because it wasn't, and it sort of split up. That caused a sort of wee issue because of the fact you did the education one first and then you followed on with social work to let the people away. And I think staff felt that social work was a tag on, but hopefully something similar could happen, have the processes that we've already had before that we could do. I don't see why we couldn't appoint them now onto the committee and then morph them into the new committee at the appropriate time, appropriate way.
So I think that's broadly where I was coming from. I mean, clearly we have an education committee now, and we will have a committee that deals with education matters. I very much took on board Colin's aside that there might be an issue in terms of how we define what is, in fact, an education matter. If we're grouping things together along the lines that we are looking at, there's clearly going to be synergies and tie-ins with matters that wouldn't necessarily, well, in fact, which currently don't come to the education committee, but which I think you could safely argue would come under the broader umbrella. So I think that's something we're going to have to look at and work our way through. I just wonder if it's maybe a more productive way to do that with these representatives, whoever they end up being, in the room with us rather than being brought in after we've looked at it. I just wonder.
Okay. Right. So, okay, I think we're all agreed that we'll support the two people going on. It's a question of when. I think Colin's suggestion with the way the implementation seems to be key members saying, no, you can let them on to the present education committee now. Ian? Are you happy to go along with that, Colin? You know, right, okay. So we agree, and they can come on to the existing education committee. Obviously, have to take on where we go.
Just to add, Chairman, that I don't know how long the process would take to actually get them in place. That may take a couple of months, may coincide with me.
Okay, the next one on this item is the Wigton representation of Wigton Area Committee wishing to have Community Council representatives on the area committees. Anything further to add to that? Any members? Alistair?
Oh, okay. I would merely repeat, Chair, and make no apologies for doing so, that, I think it's important that the Council do reaffirm their commitment to enhancing community involvement in their decision-making processes. What we have here is a suggestion from the Wicklow Area Committee. All members, as far as I'm concerned, have supported these proposals, as indeed have the community representatives. I appreciate, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute, more respect for Rona Lewis, I appreciate that, various potential issues have been flagged up, as it were, in the report, which I would concede will require additional consideration. And in these circumstances, I'm prepared, rather than lose it on the day, and I'm being totally honest about it, I'm prepared to agree that we look further at refining these proposals, or indeed at any other suitable alternative proposals. I think that, there is certainly a groundswell of opinion in my own area. I understand that that's replicated elsewhere in Dumfries and Galloway, communities, as it were, wanting a greater say in the decision-making process, and I'm all for that. What I would say, as I've indicated, that if you want to have a further look, want to refine it, want to look at alternatives, I've no problems, I've no difficulties with that. One plea I would make, Chair, hopefully we'll get to the stage of trialling something, and bearing in mind that you chose Wigtown, as it were, for the trialling of the revised refuse collection routes, and you've heard me in this one before, I would like to think that Wigtown would be chosen as a trial area for greater community involvement in the area committee functioning. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you, Chair.
That's right. Thanks, Chairman. I think both personal and group view in regards to this was actually, if we're going to go forward with something like this, it has to be on an equitable basis. Therefore, we'd have to. Our preference would very much be to consult fully across all 4 area committees if we're going to do anything with this at all. So, wouldn't like to see anything like this being approved today in regards to taking it forward, even as a pilot project. But certainly more than up for putting on it as an agenda item across the rest of the area committees and see what council were absolutely clear and making a fully informed decision in regards to how we best take this forward. Because each individual area has its own set of circumstances, and we could possibly adapt to each individual area's particular case.
Thanks, Chairman. I mean, there's something in this, and I don't think that we want to, we certainly don't wish to be seen to be effectively riding roughshod over a legitimate community interest, and an interest in some level of greater involvement. I think it would be fair to say that the idea that came forward, the one that most caught my eye, of every community council in the area being able to ask a question on every agenda item, would fundamentally change the nature of your committee. And I mean, I suspect we might need an area committee meeting every week in order to actually diary in enough time to allow that to happen. I don't think that particular solution or proposal is actually workable, but equally I don't want to throw out the idea wholesale. I don't think that's a clever thing for us to do either. We also, I think, have a tension between the issue of having an equitable approach and what area committees are already empowered to do, because I note that actually, as matters stand, the area committees could co-opt people if they saw fit. I don't know if it's happened at any point in the past. Certainly it hasn't happened since 2007. Maybe further back, who knows? Although I also recognise area committees were differently configured. There were more of them, they were smaller in some cases. I'd be quite happy for it to go out to the other area committees to have a look at. The report, for example, highlights things in the stewardship, for example. The federation solution wouldn't work in the stewardship because we don't have a federation. We have a very large number of community councils by comparison with the number of elected members. So again, you have 10 members and 22 community councils. So the working group solution that's so far being proposed wouldn't necessarily be a clever idea either. But I come back to the point that I'm not totally comfortable with saying at this point, well, let's not do anything with it at all, let's not pursue it any further. I think perhaps if there's an amalgam of what the two suggestions that have been brought forward so far, we can maybe have a bit of a further look at this and see if there's anything better that we can come up with. I don't think that would be time wasted.
Thank you. Well, I think from my point of view, I wasn't very much in favour of certain aspects, because if you've got over 20 community councils on an area committee and you're asking that each one has a rep there with the right to raise one question on each report. That is a right that elected members don't even have, right? The right for elected members to speak is very much in the hands of the chairman of the committee. So why would you give outside people a right that elected members don't have? And then if you want to change your standing orders to allow every elected member the right to ask one question on every item on the agenda, that's fine. Bring your sleeping bags in. The other point on that one is that my group did have a brief discussion on this, and if community councils have got an interest in a particular item on the agenda, if they were to put that in writing on the Friday before the meeting, that could be entered into the meeting by the appropriate officer, saying we had an inquiry from such and such community council about this agenda item. Now, if the community council, somebody was present to listen to what the answer was or what happened during that debate, that's fine. Or they could be given a written answer after the committee meeting. That's something else to consider. That gives them an input, if you like. I mean, I certainly know from over the years having attended area committee meetings, the number of times community council or a representative of community council turns up are few and far between. And certainly never engendered any great enthusiasm from community councils in this Dale area or even Furtree that someone knew what to be involved in. I certainly have reservations, but I think there's a way to accommodate them without necessarily having any representation actually on the committee. Ivor?
Chair, I think one of the big problems you'll find is we get the papers a week in advance of the meeting. The public get the papers the day after. Now, there are very few community councils that meet in between those two times. So are you getting the community council's view, or are you getting an individual who's put themselves forward's view? Now, that could skew, if somebody knows how to work the system, you could actually get people who might have wanted to be a councillor or something, didn't get in, got on there, and they've got an input where other people who may have the community's interest at heart wouldn't get the opportunity. It's one of the things when I go to community councils, here we are, look at this, they send this out, give you 2 weeks to consult on it, 2 weeks just after you've had the meeting. So you can't actually get a community council view on it. I don't know how you would get questions in whether the community council would be happy to do that, because one of the things the community council say, we want it so we can discuss it at a meeting, we don't want to have to phone up and read it ourselves, it's there in front of us, and they have troubles with that. That's my experience from community councils in the area I serve. You've also got the fact that if you watch, I can't speak to it, I know Mid Galloway was very popular attendee when it was the Mid Galloway area committee. I think Upper Nithsdale was, when it was the Mid and Upper Nithsdale committee, it was another one where you got a lot of representation. I know in Lower Nithsdale, and since we've moved to the Nithsdale area committee, it's our three stalwarts, his wives, Mr. Service that turn up, the rest on occasions if there's something in the ward that interests them. Now, I would have thought if it was something of interest that, like Alice says, different areas have different ways of working. So maybe Ian's proposal to actually take it out to what they want, how they can manage it, might give us some ideas better than going and jumping.
I mean, the one issue I've got, I have to say, is that not every area has a community council, and why should there be preferential treatment to those areas that choose to have community council? Very often it's for a perfectly legitimate reason. Part of my ward, Cresswell, doesn't have a community council, they have a tenants and residents association, and actually see that as an appropriate forum, and councillors go along and get questioned, and there's a large amount of social housing there, so it's a DGHP thing. And they're quite happy with that. There's other areas that don't have community councils because they haven't been able to get interest. There's, out of Dumfries and Lower Nithsdale, 25 community council areas, there's only 16 community councils. So effectively, you'd be disenfranchising large areas from having the same rights as others in terms of membership of the committee. So that's a big concern I have to say. I don't know what the answer is, but I think at the very least, area committees should be consulted. I think the idea that we should take a decision effectively to recommend something be imposed on area committees that have never actually discussed their own way of working would be unfair. So certainly I think area committees should be certainly consulted on.
Thanks, Chair. I'll try not to rehearse the comments I made earlier. You know, I don't think there was certainly never any intention, as it were, on the part of the Wigan Area Committee that, you know, anything should be imposed, as it were, on other area committees. It was on the basis of, you know, unanimity in that particular committee, supported by community council representatives who were involved in the short-term working group process. But really, the point I wanted to make was picking up on Ivor's suggestion, a reference rather, to such as the Galloway Area Committee. You know, the irony in that regard, Chair, is that that developed on a purely ad hoc basis, and it wasn't a preferential role that was given to community councils. Community council representatives turned up there at that meeting, but they turned up at these meetings, but they turned up there as members of the public. And the involvement and the input was absolutely superb. And let me pay tribute to Sandra McDowell. It was due primarily to the inclusive and superb chairpersonship with which she ran that particular committee. I've seen 30, 40 members of the public there actively being encouraged by the chair and various members to make their views known on whatever they felt, to make their views known on specific items of business. And you didn't get everybody coming in, as it were, for the Isle of Whithorn, you know, to sort of Glentrool in every particular item. As I say, I would be the first to consider it was on an ad hoc basis. It was made quite clear when it came to decision-making time, it was the 5 elected members that took the decisions. Very often what you picked up at the end of the day from you know, the involvement, the input, the interaction was a benefit, you know, when you came to make the decision. I appreciate that you know, that it worked at that time. You've got to bring much more of a structure to it, and I would be the first to be supportive of that. So to an extent, I might have seen the future. I certainly participated in it. What I'm saying is that, you know, if we do this sensitively and with a light touch, and by all means, Chair, after due consultation, I think there's mileage to be made out of it. That's the plea I'm making. I'm grateful to you for your forbearance.
Just as a kind of point, picking up on after what people are saying, I think Ivor summed up very well what's probably happening in Ireland at the moment with regards to the common good and the way we're being presented here. But what I will say is that, we do have, I think the same with Dumfries as well, actually, without skipping over that point, we actually have representatives sitting on the area committee, but it's to the subcommittees, common good being a subcommittee. Dumfries is probably the same, so that is actually taking place at the moment. But we've had some quite heated debates in regards to, certainly in Ireland, common good. But every time, once it does settle, some really good learning points come from it. And it's like Alice is kind of touching on in regards to being open and transparent and communicating well with the local area. Sometimes people have got maybe their own ambitions and they want to try and better them through that type of conduit, you could say. But 9 times out of 10, we're always in a better position once we've been through the rough times. And I think there is a place for them, but it needs to be equitable. At least every area committee should get the chance to put forward their say and how they think the best solution would be for them. So we could then even take an individual choice how each area committee could take this forward. I suppose that's the bulk of it. I mean, I do think it really can work if we do it right, but it's got to be, the numbers need to be limited and less sleeping bags, probably something as well.
Just one observation, and again, Chair, I'm grateful to you for allowing me back in. It's right and proper that we do go out and consult other area committees. I would suggest perhaps that in the doing so, if any particular member or any members of the Council Corporate Management team have any alternative suggestions which come to mind, I think it would be worthwhile, as it were, incorporating these in the consultative process as well. I think, you know, we should be consulting, and since we're going to consult, there are alternative models. Let's flag these up to be of assistance to all 4 area committees as well, Chair.
It depends. If you want to go out to consultation, you can write to community councils and say, what are your views on having greater participation? I certainly can't agree with the paper presented by Wigton going out to consultation. There's no way you can have one person from every community council allowed to ask one question on every item on the agenda. I think That's just totally unacceptable.
What I was suggesting earlier when I first came in, Chairman, was we 2.3, after considering it, I mean, I would certainly be happy to move that the committees take this forward, and obviously would communicate with every community council at that point. It'd be an agenda item on the committee. Community council could be involved, even if we gave them a couple of months forewarning, so it's like Ivor picked up a lot of them. They didn't get the chance to discuss our items as a community council, and they've got certain representatives that come forward, sometimes representing their own view. And I think it's only fair that the community council as a whole get a chance to make that point. So I would certainly be happy to add to 2.3 that we've considered that, but we take it. We ask the committees to take this forward. And we get a further report back here once we're fully informed.
Can we maybe get a consensus that we take the other area committees to elicit their views on how we take this forward? I mean, I think you've got to remember the point made by Colin that probably just Annandale and Estill and Stewartry, who've got their whole areas covered with community councils. I mean, there's only 2/3 of Wigton and 2/3 in Estill covered, and they tend to be the urban areas. I mean, Colin said Cresswell, Queer, parts of Glencloden, Sandside don't have community councils, and these are areas like Sandside and Glencloden where there are problems and probably could do with support. But we do have tenants and residents associations, so maybe we've got to consider them. But it's how you do it, whether you do it. Certainly, I've grave reservation myself with one person from each one of these organisations. It just becomes absolutely. Casey and Estill will be looking at even more folks sitting around the table than we've got at a full council meeting. So, I'm happy to go out to consultation with the other area committees. Yep. Okay, if we go to the recommendations, Alistair?
Just again, sir, you made a very valid point about tenants and residents associations. When this was discussed on various occasions at the area committee, I mean, I, for instance, took the view that, restricting it to community councils could leave you open to the charge of being somewhat restrictive. I mean, we now have a TARA, Tenants and Residents Association, in at least one location in Lincolnshire. And if these people wanted to come along to an area committee and raise issues which they felt were particularly appropriate, I personally feel at the end of the day that they should be entitled and indeed encouraged to do so. I go back to what I said, in the ad hoc days when this arrangement developed and worked in mid-Galloway context, it was on the basis, Chair, it was members of the public. It wasn't members of the community council, members of TARAs, or members of whoever. Anyway, thanks again for your allowing me back.
Recommendations, 2.1. Agree that one. 2.2. Under 2.3, I think we're agreeing there to go out to consultation with the area committees on proposals to include community councils, etc. Members happy with that? Item 4, review of standing orders and schemes of delegation. I think maybe the easiest way is to go through these one by one. Standing order, it's item 331 on page 11, standing order 10.3, voting. Note here, at a recent training event, advocate that best practice was now there should be no voting by ballot. I think there's a couple of different issues here. I think when it comes to the election of council leader in various positions for elected members, nowadays, because of political divide of the council, you might as well do it by roll call anyway, because you can probably predict the result before you walk in the room in any case. So you might as well just do it openly. My own view is that when it comes to officers, I think there's, as we do with dismissals, it is done by roll call. And I think, sorry, it's done by secret ballot. And I think that should be for appointments as well. Because I think if you have a minuted decision and you've appointed somebody and disappointed maybe the other people, that becomes a matter of public record how elected members voted. And that can lead to an uncomfortable position if you happen to be, say, a committee chairman and it becomes apparent you voted for somebody who's not the director with whom you're working. And I don't think that leads to a good relationship. I'm not saying that folk carry vendettas or anything, but you never know. There's certain councillors and certain officers I've known over the years that I'd be very worried about them carrying a vendetta. But I think I'll open it to members, but I certainly have my reservations about appointing officers, and I think I really do believe that should still be done by ballot. But I'll leave it. Colin?
Refrain from suggesting that the appointment of senior councillors should be done by a game of musical chairs or something. But I think there is a difference between. I think I'm more concerned about the issues around tribunals than the appointment of senior positions. But I think maybe the way to deal with that would be to have a system whereby employment issues are dealt with, continue to be dealt with by ballot. But when it comes to the appointment of councillors and leaders, etc., that should be a roll call.
So I think we agree that for appointment of councillors to any position, that be done by roll call. When it comes to appointment or dismissal or other disciplinary matters, that's still carried out by ballot. Members happy with that? Standing order 8 is the quorum. I think that's straightforward. I mean, it should only be the voting members who comprise the quorum. Members happy to agree?
Let's say we've had a lot of debate in regards to this subject as well at Common Good, certainly in Annan. And I'll just throw it out there. I'd like to hear what members think. Even think he's taken into consideration it might be an option, because we struggle to get a quorum. We've got 4 members, quorum's 3, and we do struggle at times to get a quorum. So they wouldn't have any voting rights in regards to that. But certainly, I mean, another thing I was going to bring up in regards to that was certainly, I think, as a proposal, I'd like to be debated whether it's at this particular point or further on in the actual report, but the possibility of an ex officio member or representatives from the community council being a vice chair. We will have a chairman in our Common Good, but I mean, in regards to being able to access maybe information and such like that, it's been a real issue in regards to, or getting it in a timid fashion. Now, if it was a chair and a vice chair at Annan Common Good subcommittee, I think that would, and the vice chair was certainly vote, but the vice chair was representative council in our case. That probably help take away a lot of the anxiety that's there at the moment. Maybe it's just Annan that's in that stance. No, it would never vote. That's what I'm saying. So if for some reason the vice chair was acting as that's why I think it's a good thing to debate. If for some reason the chair wasn't there, the vice chair was acting as chairman, still would never vote.
I mean, the trouble we've got is Common Goods are decision-making bodies and can be dealing with money. Now, if you include representatives who are not duly elected members of the council, part of your quorum, you could effectively have 1 councillor turning up and 4 community council reps turning up. That way your quorum. That way you've got a quorum. But the only person making the decision is that 1 elected member. And that is patently totally wrong and open to all sorts of abuse. So your quorum has got to consist of elected members, I would suggest. You can't have any deviation. Alistair?
Thanks, Chair. You know, my own view is that by all means encourage or create space for non-council representatives on the Common Good, but they're there, they don't have a vote, and they should certainly not be counted, as you say, part of the quorum. Again, you know, for instance, in the Whithorn or Wigton Common Good Committee, all 3 Mid-Galloway members are trustees of the Whithorn Trust, and there's been occasions when the Whithorn Trust, of course, made application for funding from the Whithorn Common Good. All 3 of us have had to declare an interest, and it's put to the area committee, and the area committee determine the application. You know, there's ways, as I say, if you adopt a can-do attitude, there's ways around it and that sort of thing. So my own view would be that at the moment we adhere to the status quo.
I think your argument is very well put in regards to a single person, single member making decisions because of the quorum. That would be, I agree with that entirely. But in regards to vice chair, that be, I mean, it's certainly a separate issue. I can maybe bring it up at the end if you want.
I mean, deal with it now. I mean, is there a need for a vice chair in a committee of 4 councillors, 4 others, you know? And at the end of the day, what you've got to think of, if you're just doing it to be nice to the community councillors, okay, one of you can be the vice chair. If the chairman's not there, the vice chair goes into the chair, then go to a vote. He hasn't got a vote anyway. He certainly hasn't got a deliberative vote. Now, you've got 4 members, but I'm thinking of Nistdale, which is a bigger one. If you then had a chairman who's not a councillor, and the committee divided 4-4, chairman, this actually happened in here at a planning committee. You put the vice chair and the chair because he declared an interest, and hadn't declared an interest, but had been present at the previous meeting where the matter had been discussed. The committee drew 6-6. What then happened is we had to reconvene a planning meeting at a later date to make a decision. So I don't think you can have somebody who has not got a voting right in the position of chair, because one of the roles of the chairman is to make sure you can reach a decision. So, it's pretty meaningless.
I think it's. I just want to hear what people are thinking. That was as much as that. I just want to hear, because it's something that will certainly feed back to Annan Community Council. They will be eager to hear that. And I think it's a fair response. I think it is. It's probably what they're trying to achieve is more of it being included part of the decision, making sure that they're making fully informed decisions. There's other routes we can certainly take. I think it's a valid point.
And Alistair covered it, I think. That's the substitution on Common Good Committee. I think it's happened in the Stewartry for some reason that Kubre Common Good Committee, and was it when George Prentice was chairman of, what had happened was that they didn't have a quorum, so the chairman of the area committee, which was George Prentice at the time, substituted. As Alistair says, what currently happens, if you can't reach a decision, if you haven't got a quorum at an area committee, at a common good, it goes to the area committee. I mean, at the end of the day, the council is responsible. The council as a body is responsible for common goods. We delegate to the area committee, then have the common good committee. So it would seem appropriate that you can't have substitution, because it is the locality that matters. And the area committee would be the body to make any decision if there's some reason why the common good committee can't do it. Members happy to continue that? Ivor?
Yeah, maybe pedantic, but the paragraph isn't right. It says that Common Good Subcommittees consist of the relevant ward members. And this tail one doesn't for Dumfries, because we would have 16 on the committee who have areas within the Common Good. We only have a subcommittee, so just keep things right.
I did think about that, and I was hoping the word relevant would apply, because it's relevant how to Dumfries, how we deal with that we only choose certain ones.
Three, four down to the end, basically, and that's the committee structures. And I think the question that's being asked there at 391, should structure and delegations broadly reflect organisation of services agreed under the shape of the council, i.e. 4 committees and an integration joint board? Certainly. So, what's members' views on this one? Colin?
I think that's a common sense starting point. I think that, that made the point before that the committee should follow the budget, if you like, follow the directorate. And I think the starting point is you start off with your new directorate. I think suggested a piece of work, I think it's alluded to in the report, a piece of work gets done is, if you looked at the last 6 or 7 meetings of each of the current committees and you put them into the new directorships, what would our agenda look like? And my instinct tells me that a community's agenda would probably be 40 items or something like that, and EI might be the same, but that effectively should be the starting point. You take your 4 new committees, you put the items on the agenda for the 4 new committees based on the new structures, and delegation would be pretty obvious. And then you take things out, because presumably in some cases the agenda would be far too long, and that's a kind of starting point. Rather than looking at what we've got at the moment, is actually what looking at the new 4 directorships would you then remove to make the committees more manageable. So communities might be that you start off with an agenda that might be at 40 items. What do? Maybe you remove housing from there, and you have a subcommittee, either a full council or communities, whatever, doesn't matter, that deals with housing. So I think that's the way to look at it, is to look at the starting point being the new directorship, and then what would you have to remove to make those committees more manageable, and maybe having subcommittees is probably the best thing. But I think the starting point is still, is a new committee structure, basically. Come to the other point later on. I think that's the starting point. I've got issues around enterprise arm and how that would all tie in with the new structures, and because of the challenges we've had in the past where EI makes a decision and then DG first have a separate committee and then end up with a situation whereby, two departments and committees effectively are bouncing blame off each other, something that happened. I think we have to avoid that, and that's my concern around. I think that's, I'll come to that in a second, but I think that's a starting point. I don't want the members think that we should look at the committee structure. Basic principle is the new directorships. We've got a bit of a mess at the moment with some things are directorates have got responsibility for some, but it's a different committee from what other parts of their directorship have got responsibility for. I think that's the starting point.
Okay. I think just following from Colin saying it, if you did start off, I think that's what we need to bring to the future meeting. As we look at item 5, that is a list of what is delegated to 4 corporate directors. So they would bring forward an agenda saying, right, I'll give you, for instance, if you take Warner's area, that's policy and resources basically within there. But in that, you would have employment and appeal. You would have pension, civic government licensing, because they are all part of Warner's responsibility. I think Colin's highlighted with communities, housing, welfare, police and fire may well fit in there. Well, that's probably something that's got to look at in a different context. Again, if you look at the E&I, then E&I would have to take in planning, local review bodies, etc. So you start off with the 4 delegations to the 4 directors, and then decide, no, we can't have 4 committees, that's far too big. I mean, but when I go back to looking at P&R, if we've got all the stuff that would be added in there, like employment, fuel, pension, civic government licensing, etc., talking members of that committee having to meet 30 or 40 times a year. E&I, if you added on planning, local review body, etc., again, over 30 meetings a year. So, as a communities committee, I hate to hazard a guess how many meetings a year we'd have there. Similar with the education, social services, CL, pleasure, sport. How do you handle that? Does that just remain, sort of what we discussed earlier, does that just remain as one committee? And then point out, if you meet as education and then say to the church folk and everybody else, you've got to leave. Ivor's quite correct. That's what happened the last time we tried these corporate bodies. It just looked like a takeover by the other services, by the education department. That is one of the reasons why we suggested the directors move out of current offices elsewhere. So there no seem to be just takeover by one department or another department. So I think there's food for thought there. Maybe I don't think we're going to reach a definitive decision today, but I think it's something. I think Colin set the ball rolling by saying, okay, let's look at 4 committees, and then realise once you see the responsibilities, if you only have the 4 committees under 4 corporate directors. So if a paper is brought back like that, and then we can slice away and take over the structure we want. So open to members on that one.
Thanks, Chairman. Yes, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, my starting point in my notes was, to answer the question, probably yes. The more I've thought about it, possibly yes. I think we look at the big 4 as they would be with everything in, and then start finding from there. Not least because one of the things that just occurred to me even while we were speaking is that if you didn't subdivide in some sensible manner, I wonder how on earth we'd ever get a real agenda for one of those committees produced. And certainly how on earth you'd get the next agenda produced, because the timescales would be absolutely crazy. We'd probably have to put dozens and dozens of people just to manage agendas, which, given what we were looking at the Business Transformation Steering Group just yesterday, isn't going to happen. So yeah, I think that's probably a logical way forward, and I suspect there's probably a good deal more work we need to do on this before we can get to a sensible proposal.
Yeah, I think Colin's right. They should start with what's actually the direct responsibility. I think there's also 2 types of committee. There's the policy kind of work that we do, and there's the sort of what I would call the practical side, where you have your employment appeals, etc. So that's something that I think can split out. But if you've got a big, put them appropriately.
Follow on to that, I mean, if for instance you take the policy committee, I mean, there's things we get consulted on. I mean, 2 government bills out of consultation, which have never come near us as elected members, and should have had a say in them. And that's a matter of the policy committee. But whether you'd want that same committee to have subcommittees dealing with licensing, subcommittees dealing with employment appeals, or you've totally separate committees who are there to carry out these practical issues. You know, they don't have to sight of a budget. They're carrying out the function of licensing. The budget's still controlled by the policy committee. So it's that separation of running the organisation and actually carrying out the function to overburdening, you know, say 20 members in one committee having to do 50 meetings, whereas maybe another committee has 20 members sitting there attending dozens. So try to set up, you know, you've got to look at elected members when you're setting up committees and subcommittees as well, making sure you're not overloading them and then sometimes end up with no getting a quorum. So I think we're heading in the right direction. Alistair?
Just to reaffirm, as far as I'm concerned, sir, what you're suggesting is eminently sensible and practical.
I suppose the only thing we've not touched on, maybe it's not appropriate here, but I think for the next council, when they do appoint their senior members of the council, that there probably should be a carte blanche. We tend to align them to committees and so on and so forth because of the way it's structured, because there will probably be every bit as many. There will be as many committees. I'm sure there will be, as you've outlined, the amount of work still there. It hasn't changed to any great degree other than a wee bit of social work. There's still 5 members of the council working on the social work stuff, as well as health. So I think probably, and it's the only thing, and maybe it's not appropriate here, but it's something I think the next council needs to look at when it goes forward to make their appointments between the council. You just make the appointment, and then that way you can distribute accordingly, because the workload's still there. It'll maybe look on the face of it as if, because of the committee structure reduced from say 6 or 7 as it's had down to 4, but the workload's still there. So that's and I certainly, and as long as we keep members fully involved, we're happy with 3.9.
Are you happy with that one? You realise where we're coming? I mean, if you look at that literally details what the various departments are doing, and therefore, if you then look at committees based on that, then maybe have to subdivide them somewhere or another.
Chair, thanks, absolutely. And we have already done a bit of work around the last 12 months, going back from the end of June in terms of the committee of analysis. So that's readily bring back to have a look at and also some information if members wish to go back further to clear comparison. Help. So be up to that year ready. That irons out any particular instances.
That sounds sensible. Can I just touch on the other questions, or just because they are, I think, quite interesting questions that certainly should try to give an element.
I was going to suggest, Colin, I'll just go through the next.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we move, that's really covered 391, 392. I think 393, 394, 395. Would we suggest that these carry on as they are at the moment until we come up with a new structure?
Obviously, they will have to carry it on at the moment until we come up with a new structure. I think the issues around housing and welfare reform are dealt with effectively by the piece of work that would say we start off with the communities committee. If it's too big in terms of items on the agenda, we look at what areas could be taken out. Housing's an obvious one. Welfare reform, I think, will be slightly different because of the whole anti-poverty strategy agenda. Maybe, you know, a wider remit might be needed there. I don't know, but certainly I think that piece of work that we talked about earlier would be the way to deal with housing and welfare reform, rather than simply say, we just continue as it is. You know, are they two of the things that we might remove from communities to lighten the load in communities and give more scrutiny to those particular areas? The first one's a wee bit different, because it depends what route you go down in terms of the corporate services type areas around employment, around licensing, all that sort of thing. You know, I think that there's an argument to say that you have a separate corporate services committee that oversees that department, and therefore the policy and resources are a different thing. But there'd be no point in doing that if you then also had other employment rights and all that sort of thing. So I think there's a discussion to be had around that, because I think we've kind of, the anomaly at the moment is that the policy committee oversees a department, if you like, you know, so there might be a piece of work to be done on that, whether or not you have a separate corporate services committee. I think that might be a bit light when you take out licensing and all that, but it's certainly a discussion we should have. In terms of the police one, if you'd asked me this question 6 months ago, should we have a separate police committee, I'd say it's a waste of time, don't have any authority, don't have any powers at all. It's just going to be a talking shop. But actually, fortunately, at long last, we might see a change in that, and we might see a return to an element of at least meaningful local scrutiny and local accountability of Police Scotland. Therefore, my instinct tells me that we should look to maintain that at the moment, at the very least, until we see the outcomes of the government's review into that, because there may, at long last, be some sort of hope that the police committee will actually have a role in Police Scotland, basically. I mean, are you going to go into the next ones after that, or do you want to just keep going?
No, I think if these ones here, obviously, they all hinge on what we decide on after we read the first matter. So it's just to ensure the business carries on, that for the moment, the housing, the welfare, and the police carry on until such time as we come up with an agreed structure. And that, because there is consultation going to be coming out very shortly from the Scottish Government on the police, and it's handy with people there with expertise that can engage with that. I think the next one, 396, is the enterprise and arm. Well, quick win in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big the concern. My starting point in this is the concern that members of the I Committee and even to an extent DG First Committee have over the commissioning process, and we're now getting rid of the commissioning process. Well, to an extent, because we're bringing the two departments together. What happens at the moment is EI Committee decide what they think the commission is and what they think is going to happen. You know, we're going to clean the gullies once a year, and then it goes to DG First Committee, and DG First can interpret that a wee bit different, that actually it's only an average of once a year, so half the gullies didn't get cleared for 25 years, you know. And effectively, the two committees, departments are played off each other. And, you know, we need a situation whereby councillors make a decision and that's what gets implemented. And we don't have effectively another committee interpreting what they think the other committee's agreed to. And that's what happens at the moment. My fear is, if you have effectively a repeat of a DG First Committee, if you like, which I don't think is what's being suggested, but if you have a repeat of that, then you end up with the two things being played off each other. So we need a very clear structure, and particularly given the fact we're looking at area committees having a significant role when it comes to certain tasks that are currently carried out by DG First. I fear that you've got a communities committee that sets a budget, you've got an area committee that sets something, you may have a trading arm committee that, you know, you could be all over the place, and you need the minimum number of decisions to implementation. That really needs to be the principle. So I really worry what the role of an enterprise and arm of the council committee would be if it's purely to focus on those commercial decisions about the council effectively tendering for outside work, that type of decision, that's fine. But I think the role of effectively scrutinise the implementation of decisions of a committee rests with the committee to make those decisions. So if the new EI committee decides we're going to fix the potholes, then that is the committee that oversees fixing the potholes, basically. And we shouldn't have this committees bouncing off each other.
Rona point. You know, this part here, the enterprise arm, did officials sort of see it as, okay, we're going to transfer the grounds maintenance, grass cutting to the communities committee, therefore they will commission the work and scrutinise the work. So, I mean, this enterprise and arm, it's not necessary now, is it?
I think it was very much with the idea about where we were out there tendering for work and trying to, you know, raise, you know, to generate income and bring it in. And I think there had been criticism in the past that that was an area that maybe didn't have enough scrutiny and members didn't have enough oversight of that. I know DG First Committee have addressed that to some extent. But when we wrote that, I think the concern was actually also about timescales. Sometimes, you know, as a number of you'll know in your own work, that when you get asked to tender for business, you don't get terribly long. It comes out and there's a fortnight to do it. So it's about also the speed of response. You know, how with that oversight or with appropriate delegations, how can officers be allowed that almost commercial freedom to make decisions and to go out there and tender in the timescales that the market will require.
Thanks. That's where I seen that it was that enterprise inside. I think Colin summed it up really well in regards to the argument why we should keep why the two organisations should be put back together so they're held accountable. But procurement came into my mind. We spoke about that. You're not on scrutiny performance. Being in part of the administration, but procurement committee is something that's come from that as a potential, which would be a subcommittee of full council. And I think this is where it would fall right into that category with the enterprise, and it would pick up any loose ends in regards to procurement. And that's what I'd like to see happen. Full scrutiny over that.
The one hesitation I have is that clearly the EI committee will set a budget, and the enterprise and arm of the council, if you like, as part of the economy, environment and infrastructure committee will set a clear budget that includes income raised through the enterprise and arm of the council, if you like. You can have a situation whereby the EI committee might set clear budget, clear direction of travel, what they want to happen, and then you have another subcommittee, if you like, deciding actually we don't really want to do that. We don't actually tender for that. We don't think what's going to impact on the private sector. Let's stay away from that. You can't have that. You can't have another committee effectively undermining decisions taken by a service committee. That's a particular wing, if you like, department of EI committee. It'll have a head of service that's accountable to the director of economy, environment, infrastructure committee. Can't effectively have another committee undermining a decision taken by the EI committee. I think that's the only nervousness I would have. If there's a particular legitimate reason, nobody's given me it yet, why you would have a separate committee, I don't know. But I'm nervous about it.
Colin's right when he says that, and it shouldn't be. It should be accountable to that committee. It shouldn't be accountable. The enterprise may well be sitting there, but it should be, if it's accountability, because it take on procurement and the enterprise. I think you've made the argument why it should be standalone. Service committee to have a role to a degree, but I don't see why it should take on that particular lump of business. We've spoken about this a lot with the scrutiny performance. Try to bring that in some kind of order, and I think procurement, enterprise inside sits perfectly. Whether it sits under EI committee as EI structure or department, where it's best placed. Maybe it shouldn't sit there. Maybe it should sit somewhere, the corporate centre or somewhere, because it is a corporate thing we're taking. It's an economic development thing. It's something we take across the whole country. And I think that should certainly be left there, and not necessarily because we're looking at the whole structure. The enterprise side of the council shouldn't necessarily be sitting underneath what will be the economy, environment, infrastructure department.
Something that could be addressed when we're doing the first piece of work. We're looking at start off the four main committees. But part of the enterprise and arm would actually not just come under E&I, fall an element in the community, fall an element in education as well. So I think we need to take a look at how we do it in each service.
Just a quick thought to put in. I think when we looked at other councils, some have had a board set up just to make quick decisions, and others have actually delegated it to a corporate management team, within set criteria. So, these are options that we can bring forward in the next paper as well.
Future role of area committees in terms of participation of local communities. Well, I think we covered some of that in our earlier agenda item. Participative budgeting and scrutiny of locality plans. Now again, this I think would have to wait till we decide how we set up the rest, because they all logically follow on from each other. So it'd be a bit remiss to say this is what area committees are going to do when we haven't even decided what the main committees are going to do and what they might delegate to area committees. So if members are happy to leave that piece of work for the moment. And 310, formation of integration joint board, social work services delegations will also require to be considered. Again, that is also covered with the department and Colin Grant. We go with that. So are members happy to agree the recommendations as amended? The matters we discussed. Members happy with that? Thank you very much. Item 5 is the scheme of delegation and responsibilities to officers. Oh, just before, on that last one, this committee has always been called Ad Hoc Subcommittee on Review of Schemes. Now, I don't know why it's ever called Ad Hoc, because Ad Hoc means it lasts for about 6 months, private run. There is a requirement by law anyway to review our standing orders once a year, I see the recommendations in there, review delegations as well. So why don't we just call it the subcommittee, standing orders review subcommittee? And 'cause it's got to be there forever and a day, because we're required to review standing orders every year, so it's not ad hoc. Be pedantic. Anyway, item 5, scheme of delegations and responsibilities to officers. Anything you want to add to the report, Lorna?
Chair, if I can ask Matthew to speak. Thank you.
Just briefly introduce it if I can, Chair. Obviously in front of you today what we have is a comprehensive but draft scheme which we fully acknowledge will require further refinement over the coming weeks. Couple of particular areas and members have referred to it already in the meeting. One is clearly the head of service matching, and as that's completed over the next couple of weeks or so, each of those individuals will be required to obviously review what is here and ensure that what's here is absolutely correct in terms of legislation and the powers that they have and require. And also there's the recruitment of the head of legal and democratic services, and clearly that individual will have a key role in the maintenance, the development and maintenance of this scheme going forward. In saying that, what we have done is carried out quite a comprehensive piece of work comparing our own arrangements to those elsewhere across Scotland, Chair. Not to say that we're trying to copy others, but what we did find from that work is that vast majority of other authorities have a much more comprehensive scheme than we have had in the past. And therefore, based on a desire for, I suppose, transparency and clarity and openness, we have therefore developed here this more comprehensive scheme, building on what was there previously and pulling together areas which were previously the responsibility of individual directors. So we're not trying to do anything in addition to what was there. We're trying to pull it together into one place for the reasons of transparency, etc. And also, probably quite importantly as well, just to provide absolute clarity to officers around what they can and can't do. So it really is trying to pull together best practice from elsewhere and consolidate what we've currently had in the past as well, into a comprehensive reference document, if you like. Going forward, clearly there's a bit of work for us to do to refine this, but what we are sort of recommending as well is that this becomes a sort of a living document, if you will. So we'd expect to keep it up to date and keep it under regular review, and as an absolute minimum, sort of an annual confirmation of the scheme as chair. So as I say, it's a draft scheme. More work will be required, and we acknowledge that. But we thought this was a good time to bring it here, really to get some direction and some thoughts from yourself.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of items I had. That was page 83, and it's assessor and DRO. Now, I thought we're setting up a joint board with Borders and that one. Are we any further forward with
Should actually meet with Scottish Borders. Ian is putting a report in front of me here. Options. At this stage, our own at this time.
the other one was on page 74, very bottom 210, new legislation updating of powers. Scheme may be updated by the appropriate director, notifying the chief exec and head of legal services in writing in advance of the specific power they wish to exercise. If this is not in conflict with or contradictory to any statutory provision, council standing orders, council policy, or delegation to another officer, effect may be given to such an extension immediately, and this scheme will be amended accordingly. Just wondering, is there a need for that to go to officer and then company full council? I mean, I can understand if if the law of the land changes saying that the Director of Education is responsible for such and such, then you've got to amend your standing orders to support that to elected members. But if it's just a director coming forward and saying, I feel I should be doing this, and the chief executive saying, go ahead and do it, we'll tell the council about it at the next meeting. No be the other way about, that you come to the elected members and ask if they're in agreement. Rona?
Yeah, I think I could give an example of, and maybe this just doesn't reflect what we're trying to achieve, is that there's occasionally, for instance, say in the UNI, the business there, where an officer perhaps isn't quite sure if they've got a statutory power, to say, I don't know, raid a puppy farm or work with police on a port, which was some recent examples that we had. And I think officers were unclear whether actually they had that delegated power. So it would have been useful in that circumstance. They had to act immediately and reassure other authorities, police, etc., that we had that power given to those officers. So there was a need for immediate action. But so that would have been a case where I think it should come that way, but then it should be cleared up at the next appropriate committee.
Happy with that. If you're talking about clarification of statutory powers, that's one thing. It's if just a director fancies having the power to do something that he fancies any reference to statute, that's totally different. That was my. No, I think any director would, but you never know. I mean, if you leave loophole, somebody's always going to drive a bus through it just to try it. Anyway, members get.
Statutory ones is self-explanatory. I think that there has been occasions, and it's as much to protect officers as it is whereby a particular major capital project the council and a committee might agree then gets changed, and exactly who and members haven't had a say in that particular change or not even been informed of the reasons behind that particular change. That's where the difficulties arise. I think there's been a problem with that in the past, a number of projects. I think we have to make sure that whatever scheme we put in place, whether it's through the scheme of delegation, whether it's through standing orders, that we actually make it clear what should happen in circumstances like that. As much as anything else, pass the buck to members for a decision the public might not like, and also make sure that members are fully aware of changes to particular capital projects and they've had the authority to make those decisions. There's no point in agreeing a project and then a change is made without members having agreed that, and there's always a kind of, it's a bit of a grey area at the moment, and I think that needs to be looked at either through standing orders or clear guidance or scheme of delegation.
I think that's a fair point. We'll incorporate that.
Anybody else? I'd be happy to agree the recommendations. Ian?
Happy, Chairman. There's one bit I meant, like yourself, I think it was in the previous one. Cannot for love nor money find the particular point I picked up on, but it was in regards to the pension panel, and it's the board. Now we've got the board and we've got the committee, haven't we? It was just the proportionality, and I don't know if it's changed or not in regards to the way it's been set up, and that maybe needs to be. I just thought I'd mention it because I've seen it. Can't mind where I've seen it somewhere in here. Maybe just for later reference. That's so it's obviously I think we're past it. But
no, there's something mentioned page 5 and item 3. This was talking about the union reps that used to allow, but now they're covered by the new. It's a tidying up exercise. We invited union reps to attend the pension fund meeting. The government changed the legislation to set up these pension boards. That gave the unions automatic right in the pension board. So it's just a tidying up exercise. I think. That one.
It wasn't. It was the representation. There's only 3 council members on it. I think is that the case? It's the proportionality would be changed. Sorry, Chair, and it's maybe something going back to a different date. I just thought I'd say it.
I mean, the pension board hasn't got any powers. The committee with the powers of pension.
I understand it because I'm on that. I just thought it was in my mind, so I just say whether it's relevant.
Pension board is basically a talking shop. Better one. The only item of business I've got is that it's an issue I've raised before, and funnily enough, another member raised it with me, and that is the issue of service level agreements. I think we need to take a look at how we handle them. 2 separate issues. A, we seem to have service level agreements left, right, and centre without any reference to elected members. I really feel there should be a method for elected members agreeing to service level agreements, because there are service level agreements out there which told, I've never even been seen by the legal department of this council or the governance department of this council. That isn't acceptable. So I think that's the job for the future, review all SLAs. But I think we need service level agreements to be approved by and signed off by elected members. And we also need a way to police them as well and audit them. One elected member made the point to me that we've got an organisation that may well be running a community facility, and the committee there is saying to other organisations, no, and I've had this myself with a community centre where you've got a management committee there and somebody wants to run a youth club. Oh no, we can't have Waynes in here, we'll wreck the place. Now, if it's in their SLA, that's for the benefit of the community. But if an organisation, if a body complains to the folk who are running the show and they say, no, we're not having you in here, there doesn't seem to be a point of appeal for us to arbitrate. So I think we need to look at a safety mechanism there, where if an organisation in the village isn't happy but not getting access to the village hall, come to us, or the officer of the council. So it's a whole question of SLAs, how we set them up. They should be approved by elected members. Can we have an ombudsman there? But for the very few occasions it arises, to give guidance to people who've got SLAs, you must allow these folks to use premises, etc. Ian?
It's off the cuff, obviously, but you've got two options. You can refer it to your procurement committee if we had one, or even differently, if we're an actual complaints committee. So we've got, if folk complained, exhausted, it went through, as we do with employment appeals, that's where the complaints committee sit at the end of, where elected members actually see the final outcome and they make it before it goes forward to the ombudsman. I mean, I think a complaints committee would be a good way of dealing with that and other types of complaints, like of stuff we've had in social work and that. It would exhaust it, see it finished, and off it goes to the ombudsman.
Well, I'm thinking a more simple thing, that if somebody's got an issue with the way, community centre's ideal one. If you've got a service level management committee in this council, that's a community centre, that's what its uses are, and they say to a play group, no, you can't have it, you don't want kids in here. Then they come to the appropriate officer, and that officer just goes back to the management committee and say, look, this is your agreement with the council, people should be permitted to use it. And it's no major issues, but there's wee niggles that brought to my attention.
Listen, Chairman, I wonder what the route is at the moment, and just so we're clear. I know this is just an ad hoc agenda item, it's any other common business, but I'd be interested to hear what the route is at the moment.
Yeah, I think your point's well made, and I think the fact is we've got service level agreements that are in fact in some cases leases or licenses, and we've got some that should be contracts, and I would hope that the contract management review that we talked about yesterday at the steering group, and it'll be coming forward, would cover a lot of these things. And also, the very term service level agreement, I mean, some of them are actually real contracts. And so why are we not calling them that? So I think we have got a lot of work to do there, and I'll certainly take that on.
Good morning, members. Welcome to Social Work Services Committee of Tuesday, 16th of January. Not quite sure which time it is, depending on which clock you look at, but I'm pretty well assured it's gone 10:30. So if we can start off with Sederunt and apologies, please.
Okay, thank you. Chair, we've got 13 members present this morning. 2 apologies so far from Councillor McClelland and Councillor Sloan. 6 members currently not present.
Thank you. Obviously, we've all done well to get here from the weather. Councillor Bell?
Chair, Councillor Crullers and Councillor Karen Crullers as well. Apologies for that. I think it's due to the weather.
Yep, understandable. And Councillor Giusti?
Chair, I've got apologies from Gail McGregor as well.
Thanks, we'll make a note of that. Now on to item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any? No, thank you. And the minute of the meeting of the 10th of October is for noting. Are we happy to note the minute? Thank you. Item 4 is the Chief Social Work Officer's Annual Report for 2016-17, and we have Lillian Kringles here to speak to the report. Lillian, can I ask you to introduce your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I hope that you've had an opportunity to look over the report that I am required by law to submit yearly. I think this report reflects some of the challenges that we've faced in social work services during the period of 2016 to the 31st of March 2017. I appreciate that we're now into 2018, but this is the period that this current annual report covers. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the previous Chair and Vice Chair of Social Work for their support throughout this period, and for the current Chair and Vice Chair for their support for social work services during the period and time of this report. I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the impact in terms of the increased demand for our service on the workforce, and this has come at the same time as we've had to deal with a reduction in resources. So I think it's important that we acknowledge the input from our staff, and also to acknowledge the change that they have had to accommodate over the past 3 years. I think it's important that we also recognise the starting point for social work services. And whilst 3 years in some aspects feels a long time, I think it's important that we reflect back on where we were as a service and some of the significant change that has been made and some of the positive progress. I absolutely accept that we still have a way to go in terms of continuing to grow, develop and ensure that we have a far more robust social work services, and I expect the next 2 years to be as challenging, if not more so, than the last 3 years have been for the management team, and most importantly for our staff and our service users. I think it would be important for me to just reflect on some of the changes that have had a huge impact on the service, particularly the health and social care integration, where we have had to adjust at every level, and we have had to work in a very different way in terms of the partnership working within the new integrated service, which is now in year 2 of full operation. We've also had the national change of the Community Justice for Scotland, the National Board, and the transfer of justice services back to Dumfries and Galloway and under the Community Planning Partnership. I hope that members had an opportunity to look at the Community Justice newsletter from the partnership that has gone out, and that reflects some of the progress that we've made over the last year. Some of it is reflected within this report, but it is a new way forward in terms of the delivery of justice services. However, I do feel it is much more positive, and we have much more input for Dumfries and Galloway now that we are no longer part of the South West of Scotland Community Justice Authority. I'd also like to reflect on the real positive destinations that we've had for some of our young people looked after and accommodated, and our responsibility as corporate parents. You will see from the report that we've had 4 young people go through university and complete their course, and we've one current young person who is attending university who was looked after and accommodated by the local authority, and that's testament to the work that was done to stabilise those young people. I think it's also important that we reflect on the way ahead. This is a year of young people. I hope members will see from the report the work that we've done to bring our own young people back into region and the developments within youth justice. Clearly happy to take any questions and clarify any points of the report, and I ask members to consider this report before you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lillian. I mean, there's a very broad spectrum of work that's been carried out and things to consider. Can I open it up to members? Do you have any questions for Lillian? Councillor Dougie Campbell. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to congratulate Lillian on this report. It's excellent and very positive. I'm mindful, though, that this was for the last financial year. And I'm just interested, page 14 of 54, second column at the top, you are making reference to involving service users in service planning, commissioning and development, and you note that you've got much further to go to embed this as an overall approach. I'm interested to know what developments have there been since the start of the new financial year in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. We have further developed, not really sure if I've fully reflected it, but we've been doing a lot of self-evaluation and work with our parents of our children that are on the Child Protection Register. And we've been having a look at the impact for families and engaging with those families in terms of that whole process and the outcomes for them to make it a much more positive destination, not just for the children but also for those parents and families that we work with when presented to us with a level of difficulty. So we've been doing much more engagement with particular focus groups. I absolutely want to roll that out to all areas. We still have a little bit of a way to go in terms of how we do that evaluation and that engagement with our service users and their families, but we have done it in the high risk areas. So we do it under child protection, we do it under adult support protection, and we do it currently under the multi-agency public protection. So for all of those service areas that covers, then we've got that direct engagement with families. We analyse the input from our staff, and clearly we take the lessons learned, because it's not always positive. Some of that can be challenging in terms of the feedback and some of the engagement. So absolutely it's an area that we want to roll out further to ensure that we're capturing views from all aspects of our service delivery, which we won't always please some service users.
Councillor Ronnie Nicholson.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to thank Lillian and the staff and all officers over this very difficult time. When I became leader, one of the first things that came on my desk was a horrific inspection report, and we had to work through that, and Lillian officers and other staff went through it all, and there's been some difficult decisions to be made, difficult ways of working, changing working, but they've all risen to that, and there's a lot of positives came out of it. There's a lot of different, you've got the MASH and things like that as well, which I think everybody should be congratulated for. One of the things you talked about integration there, Lillian, you wouldn't be surprised that there's many challenges within that as well, and I don't think there's still this proper understanding about how we work within the IJB, the integration, and what our responsibilities and what we can and can't do within that. And I think there's some governance issues in there that probably you are not in control of, but it may have an impact on social services and the way they're delivered. And I'd just like to a brief comment from yourself, because I know it's not your place or you don't have the authority sometimes to do what might be, what's classed as the right thing in my book.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson, and staff will appreciate those words of support. I think in terms of the governance arrangements for the Integrated Joint Board and the Health and Social Care Partnership, colleagues will be aware that the services that have been delegated under adult services then become the operational management responsibility of the Health and Social Care Locality Manager. And that manager manages our locality social work manager for adult services. So the operational service delivery very much sits with the partnership and comes under the responsibility of the general manager, health and social care, who is now Graham O'Brien's, who previously was an officer of the local authority. In terms of the governance, from my point of view, I have the professional responsibility, and I can challenge professional decisions, but I cannot ask those to be changed, other than I can raise my concerns and raise the risk if particular actions are taken. And one of the examples that I've given a number of times was where the professional advice was not to cancel a review for a family and a service user who had a whole range of difficulties. The locality manager of the Health and Social Care Partnership chose to cancel that review, and that caused a whole range of issues for the social worker involved, and most importantly for the family and the service user. But we can only give the professional advice. I'm confident now that that wouldn't happen again, and we would escalate that to the Chief Operating Officer, Julie White. However, in terms of the actual day-to-day operational service delivery, that sits within the integrated partnership, and we can only challenge professionally. And I would raise those particular issues through the Clinical and Care Governance Committee, which sits as a subcommittee of the Integrated Joint Board. Clearly elected members can ask the 5 representatives from that attend the Integrated Joint Board to raise issues directly, but it is a very difficult situation for social work services in terms of the delegated budget and the decisions made by the Health and Social Care Partnership.
Thanks very much, and thanks for letting me back in. And that's my understanding now. But I'm glad to have that clarified for other members as well in here. But some of the difficulties, and we've been through them as a social work service as well, when decisions are made by the IGB and by the chief operating officer within that structures, and you'll have no surprise that I think the governance could do to be looked at within that system. But decisions made by them could have an impact on the social work services and the way the social work services are delivered. And it's not always, you don't have a say in that. And I think you have a say, but you don't need to recognise that. And I'm thinking even about local services within an area, and I'll go back to a local one that I was involved in, and it may seem trivial, but it's not trivial because it has an impact in an area. You have dental services and you have corroborative services within an area in North West Dumfries, which is an area deprivation. These services were put in there for a reason, and we worked closely with social work. We worked closely with other agencies to get different services within that area, but by withdrawing them services, it has an impact on how other services are carried out through the social work and through other agencies within North West Dumfries. So yes, and I'll still be, I'll still be campaigning for that, but against these decisions. But I know it is very difficult for yourself, and maybe this isn't the right place to bring this up, but it's very difficult where you can see other decisions made within that could have a direct impact in social work services, both financially and for the individuals involved.
Thanks. Do you want to come back in quickly on that, Lillian? Thanks.
I absolutely accept the comments from Councillor Nicholson, and the only reassurance I can give you is that we will continue to fight every corner for social work services and continue to raise the professional issues to ensure that the local services are continuing to be delivered.
Yeah, I think it was helpful for those who managed to attend the seminar we had on governance, just exactly the complexity and the difficulty that's faced by social work, and very much everything it's the final port of call, I think, when everything else fails, and we have the responsibility, so it's a very difficult, challenging landscape. We've got Councillor Elaine Murray next.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually got 2 very separate questions, but my first question actually relates to both what Councillor Campbell has said and what Councillor Nicholson has said, and it relates to the involvement of service users. It's not strictly speaking about this period, but it's the way in which the Acorn House issue has been handled by the Health Board. And we seem to get dragged into that, the council sort of tagged along in all the bad publicity. But their service users have not been involved at all until very late on in the process. They've been told that they can't have something. They've not been consulted. They've been told that they can't have the status quo. And there we're talking about very disabled children and families who need respite, who are basically being frightened into thinking that they won't be able to get that respite anymore. I don't believe that this council would have carried out that consultation in that manner. And I would, welcome some sort of reassurance from our chief social worker that we will fight the corner for those families.
Councillor Murray, just on that point, there has been no decision made on Acorn House. There was a review. We are service purchasers, so we have a contract to purchase respite care, and you're absolutely correct, it is an NHS resource which we purchase respite care from. However, there has been no decision as to the closure of Acorn House. There was a review group set up to look at the services that are delivered. The difficulty and some of the challenges that we have is that health have included children's services within their integrated scope. So children's services are in the IJB. For the local authority, quite rightly, they remain our responsibility. But we were invited to be part of the discussion as to the way forward for Acorn House. And the paper that was unfortunately shared, which was an internal document to be discussed by senior officers, somebody put it through the door of the families that use Acorn House, that there is no decision made on Acorn House, the consultation has not commenced and the review has not commenced. I can only give you that assurance that we will be at the table, that we will fight the corner for in terms of what provision is available, but we actually do not view that purchasing all respite care for young people is right from Acorn House. There are some young people that we could use the budget differently for, so we will be looking at all of that, and that will be in consultation with families. And I can absolutely assure you that we have not been advised or told by NHS to stop using Acorn House. I know that that was one of the issues that families had raised. I can absolutely give you that assurance. We are using Acorn House to the full capacity of our contract, which is £250,000 per year.
Thank you very much for that reassurance, and certainly I hope that will certainly reassure the parents a bit, because they are extremely worried. And it does go down, I'm afraid, to some of this sort of the governance issues and the way in which issues are being handled, which I don't think that we would handle them in the same way, and that problems are arising from that. May I ask my second totally unrelated question, which is relates to community justice, and unfortunately I seem to have missed the newsletter, which I would be very interested to see, so I'll hunt that down. When the legislation setting up the new arrangements was going through Parliament, there was a lot of discussion, not just about reoffending, but about prevention and desistance. And I just wondered, you mentioned reduction in reoffending, but if there is work being done on desistance and prevention locally as well.
Absolutely, the partnership, and hopefully you will see, I'll make sure that the newsletter is resent to you to ensure you've got that. You will see within the newsletter that as a partnership, we're looking at early intervention, we're looking at prevention, and we are absolutely looking at how do we divert young people in particular from even entering into the criminal justice system. The new partnership has got an opportunity to bring services back to the local area. I have said this in the past, where I think we did not get the appropriate resources via the Section 27 settlement, because it was given to the South West of Scotland CGA, and without a shadow of a doubt the Ayrshire's got a bigger slice of the pie. So we have had a small increase in our budget last year. I'm anticipating a small increase this year, and the partnership will absolutely be looking to use that to develop additional services in terms of early intervention and prevention. The most important point about the partnership is this is not a social work service, it's a multi-agency service. We have every aspect of Dumfries and Galloway PLC attending the partnership. We have third sector organisations, we have voluntary organisations, we have all the main statutory agencies round the table, and we're holding them much more to account about the responsibility for working with those that are in the criminal justice system. So I'll certainly get the newsletter to you, and I can reissue the plan, if that would be helpful, the Community Justice Dumfries and Galloway plan.
Thank you. Councillor Graham Bell.
Thanks, Chair. Well, Councillor Murray just maybe touched on the point regarding the criminal justice and community payback orders. And I've got quite concerns about this. Obviously, you know, the profile of the community payback orders, people out in the region across Dumfries and Galloway don't know what they're doing. We need to be raise the profile to say they're repairing this building, brushing this street, emptying these bins, doing that. We need to let members of the community across the region know that we're failing to connect and failing to let people know that the good work has been done. So we need to raise this profile through advertising, through press, through the council website. Because as members of the public come out to me and say, there's a lot of people who do community payback orders. We don't know what they're doing, Councillor Bell. Can you tell me what they're doing? Well, I know what they're doing because we'll get an email or an insight or a newsletter what's happening. But we need to spread the message out there that are working out there, that are paying back and are doing hard work in the community. So it needs to be addressed, if that could be taken on board, please.
Councillor Bell, I'll certainly reflect on that comment. We have obviously the annual report for CPO, which has gone out, and actually we had a real positive input from the BBC on the website with regards to that, but I'll take that on board and reflect on whether we need to do that wider. We have it on our own website, and the partnership are spreading that word, but certainly reflect on that.
Do we have any further questions for Lillian? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for being late. First thing is really for the governance assurance, where it talks about the appropriate consultation. Can you give us a kind of insight as to how that process proceeded, and will it be available to elected members?
Sorry, consultation on, sorry.
In 4 it says governance assurance. This is a procedural report and the appropriate consultation has been undertaken. And I accept that, but it's just to get a better understanding of the process through the consultation, and will the outcomes from those consultations be available to elected members?
In terms of this report, yeah, this report is a statutory requirement for myself, and the actual consultation of is Social Work Committee, and then I will take it to the IJB. So this is a report that reflects on the service provision and the delivery, and for me to provide members with the assurance and the Scottish Government with the work that we are doing under the statutory requirements. There is no other consultation event.
Thank you, members. This was our opportunity to consider the report, so can we consider it considered? Yep, thank you very much.
Chair, just one thing. I hope, wish Lillian all the best with the report to the IGB, and I hope she reflects the kind of feelings that was in the room.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Item 5 is for noting. Adult Protection Committee from Thursday 9th of March. Are we happy to note? Councillor Murray.
Just a question. This is one from the 9th of March. Have there been meetings since then? Because there was supposed to be one on the 8th of June, but it's not come to the committee.
At that point, Councillor Murray, the chair, Agnes Harvey, had left her post, and we've reappointed. So we have a new chair now. There will be other minutes, but they just weren't available for this committee.
And so are we happy to note, just incidentally for the record? Yep, thank you. Yeah, we often tend to be sort of 2 meetings behind by the time it comes to social work. And item number 6 is the minute of the meeting of the Child Protection Committee, 18th September. Are we happy to note that? Yep, thank you. I have no other business. Thank you very much for your attendance and perseverance in the honour today, and